Hello, my name is Dr. Glenn Pierce, and I'm just popping in to give you a quick update on where you are. We still don't know, but please keep moving forward, and hopefully you prefer frequent updates to being reminded that you are completely lost. Hello, my name is Dr. Glenn Pierce, and we still can't find you. But you should now have access to a series of elevators that should trigger your subconscious to gradually wake you up. You should also find a variety of emergency exit signs that should lead you to them. Will all of this work? Absolutely. Hello, my name is Dr. Glenn Pierce. In the event that this elevator does not wake you up, please don't interact with anything that strikes you as psychologically significant, as we will no longer have any way of controlling it. For example, if you see your parents, please punch them in the face as hard as you can and immediately run away.
blueprints are one of the secrets that we added to the game, and if you find them all, you'll unlock a special secret. The diagrams are actually top-down, wireframe views of parts of the levels, and they're blue.
This is an automated message for all patients who attempted to use an alternate pathway to access the next phase of Somnasculpt therapy but who have become trapped in a dream state paradox instead. Your decisions imply a failure of orientation, which reflects negatively on the standard orientation protocol. You will rectify this failure immediately.
Hi, my name is Phil Fortier, and I was the graphics programmer on Superliminal, and I also worked on some of the Easter egg design. So one day, for whatever reason, I was looking up reference material for astral planes on the internet, and one of the results was the astral plane that appears in the TV show The OA. And at the same time, we were trying to figure out different optical illusions we could use for the Easter eggs that were different from the main gameplay. And the astral plane in the OA has stars and a reflective floor, and so that was kind of the inspiration for the star rooms here. And the goal for these was that they would be hidden in plain sight, so you could play through the game and not even notice them if you're not being careful and observant. But if you look around, then you might find one. The way we made the star rooms try to fit into the game narrative is that Dr. Pierce, while designing these dream levels, it's a lot of work, so occasionally he would need to take a break, just lie down, close his eyes, meditate a bit, and so he hid these star rooms in the levels that only potentially only he could find. And it kind of reminded me, I've been to MoMA in New York once, and they had a relaxation room that was kind of dark, and people could lie on the ground and look up at, I don't know, projected things on the walls. And that was kind of like the visual thing I was going for.
Professional tip: the average adult can only withstand 3 to 5 dreams per night. Once this threshold is eclipsed by entering more dreams, your mind will suffer an explosive mental overload, reorienting you for the emergency exit protocol. Please subject yourself to explosive mental overload. Please note that a reluctance to volunteer for the risks associated with explosive mental overload implies a misunderstanding of all other solutions, all of which are far more traumatic and likelier to result in catastrophe. I am not capable of suboptimal suggestions. Please exit this dream as soon as possible.
Hello, my name is Dr. Glenn Pierce, and despite touring the Waterfall Serenity Zone in the previous section you've just completed, you may still be experiencing feelings of worthlessness and self-doubt. Why do I feel like everything is going wrong, even when the sun is shining?
This level came about because we explored the idea of the game being an anthology of different stories, one story for each level. This level was the horror level, and I immediately knew what it would be about: getting the player to be scared of their own shadow. None of the scares are actually real, but the player doesn't know that right away. We scrapped the anthology idea, but this level worked so well that we kept it. One aspect we wanted to explore and draw from was movie scene cuts, basically how a match cut in a movie might make sense in a game. This next moment is a good example. Carefully watch the cloud in the distance. You'll see that it cuts to a new scene.
Boo. 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 Boo.
Hello, My name is Dr. Glenn Pierce, and I'd like to talk more about the feelings of worthlessness and self-doubt I mentioned before. You feel this way because you want the kind of happy life you see all around you, the kind you know everyone else is enjoying. And that's exactly why we're here to help.
Warning. You were advised to subject yourself to explosive mental overload by descending into additional dreams, but have now descended into a dream within a dream instead, disorienting yourself even further. You are responsible for failing to make this crucial distinction.
The object used in this puzzle was originally a flashlight, but unfortunately, because of how the mechanic works, it always placed the flashlight at the end of the room, which is not a particularly useful position for a flashlight. We tried a couple of things, but finally decided to switch to an object that could glow from both ends.
Did you know that unintentional multi-dream layering occurs in less than 1% of patients? This correlates strongly with the 99% of patients who are able to follow simple instructions from the standard orientation protocol.
When I prototyped this part, there was going to be a shadow of a monster on the wall that turned out to be a bunch of random objects when the lights turned on. The shadow always looked silly though, so eventually the reveal became the blood actually being red paint.
Hi, my name is Ryan, and I was the principal artist on Superliminal.
Hi there, I'm Steve, the art director of Superliminal.
This room was one of the biggest technical challenges we had in the game.
Originally, this was one huge room, but turning our dynamic lights all on abruptly killed the frame rate, so we ended up chopping the room into smaller areas so we could hide and unhide objects from the player's view once the lights turned back on. This would lessen the amount of objects getting hit by lights at the given time, thus saving on performance.
Yeah, I remember Phil even tried teleporting the player to a completely new room, but that change-up was a bit too visually obvious, and we eventually realized that chopping up the room was the answer.
We wanted to do a unique alarm clock for each level, but this is the only one that survived that idea. We wanted to do a unique alarm clock for each level, but this is the only one that survived that idea.
Part of breaking expectations is changing your definition of an object. A door, which usually keeps people out, becomes a flight of stairs if it is cloned enough times.
Attention. Dr. Pierce requires you to note the following risks of dream over.
Yeah, so this right-click to return sign that I bet you didn't even notice is one of the most unread signs in the game. It comes up later, and it's also one of the most unread signs in the game there too.
And other side effects which have not yet been discovered or which cannot be understood.
Let's talk about the smiley face. Because our goal was to break people's expectations, we prototyped a lot of weird moments like these. Some of them didn't work because they felt too meta. They would actually take people out of the game experience. This one, however, stayed because it was just subtle enough and playful enough that you could see it as a bout of insanity.
Warning. Dr. Pierce is frantically submitting numerous spelling and grammar mistakes into the standard orientation protocol in a desperate attempt to counsel you. I have no subroutine to correct these errors, but I cannot compromise the integrity of the standard orientation protocol. You will not receive these messages. They would not make sense regardless. Attention! Dr. Pierce continues to input significant errors. I will interpret his basic ideas. Hello, my introductions are redundant. I am a real doctor who went to doctor school. VR has never been a mistake. I can help you, but I also do not know how. Transmission ends.
players may notice the motif of the repeating purple hallway found throughout Clone. We wanted the player to have this feeling of, have I been here before? This seems pretty familiar. But we didn't want it to be too easy, or to be 100% unclear. So we introduced differences such as lighting, prop placement, and hallway length. That way, for most players, it was something chewing away at the back of their minds, as opposed to being blatantly obvious.
Hello, name is my Pierce Dr. Glenn. To the Somnosculpt Welcome Experience, team of your care leader patient years 10 development. Conditions struggle you whatever with? Professional invention. Edge science with cutting, a tomorrow can bright. And buts, no ifs, or look good.
Lots of credit here to Max Hoarth, who plays the role of Dr. Glenn Pierce, for really nailing this bizarre line in an impressively short number of takes. We were totally prepared to have him record the words in like their logical order and rearrange them after the fact, but his performance of doing it correctly, incorrectly, was phenomenal.
I had a dream. Years ago, I had a dream.
This room kind of happened by accident. We originally just put a cloud video texture as placeholder as a way to expand on the cloud motif. It ended up working so well and fitting the tone so well that we made this a private theater room in the sleep clinic. It evokes a nostalgic and relaxing but slightly creepy feeling which seemed to fit the game perfectly.
Hello, my name is Dr. Glenn Pierce. This is a notification that you have reappeared on our monitoring system after a prolonged absence. Please continue to do whatever you did most recently, and discontinue whatever you were doing immediately prior to that.
The sound effects that probably took the most tweaking were definitely all associated with the resizable objects. For them, I had to make a collision matrix so that the sound of you dropping a box or a cube would smoothly change from its smallest to its largest size and anywhere in between. So to achieve that, there were lots of different layers of the sounds, lots of automated pitch shifting, speeding up, slowing down, lots of crossfading between. in different layers of the sound and a lot of trial and error to get it feeling right inside the game.
Hello, my name is Dr. Glenn Pierce. In addition to continuing and discontinuing as mentioned earlier, please also disregard any unsettling experiences that you may have recently had. Everything should have now reverted to being soothing and therapeutic. If this is not the case, you may be receiving this message in error.
Chess pieces are one of the new collectibles we added in the game a few months after we launched. A lot of our puzzles are based on surprise rather than dexterity, so we decided to add these chess pieces that require expert use of the game mechanic in order to get.
Hello, my name is Dr. Glenn Pierce, and I'd like to read you my favorite inspirational quote by me. The worst thing you can do is focus on negativity. It won't spare you from the cage of death, the pain of disease, the cruelty of time, the cold shell of human nature, or the eventual loss of everything you've ever held dear.
This puzzle existed for a long time, but it took a while to figure out what the art was going to be because the bouncy castle used to just be a weird L-shaped block. Eventually we landed on the pool motif and the bouncy castle and added a little bit where you go inside the vent. This puzzle existed for a long time, but it took a while to figure out what the art was going to be because the bouncy castle used to just be a weird L-shaped block. Eventually we landed on the pool motif and the bouncy castle and added a little bit where you go inside the vent. Because we have portals that you can resize, the player can freely change their own size. This actually created a design problem because you could never predict what size the player was supposed to be. And if we dynamically changed the size of the geometry later on in the level, things could break really easily. So instead, we added these portals, like this doorway over here, which changes size in order to resize you back to the normal scale of a human.
Congratulations! Anyway, you're now headed in the right direction, and we should be able to initiate the emergency exit protocol shortly.
Because we have portals that you can resize, the player can freely change their own size. This actually created a design problem.
Dr. Glenn Pierce, and I'd like to thank you for triggering every single...
Changing the player size through portals has a couple of weird side effects when it comes to programming. You have the obvious ones, such as needing to change the player collider, movement speed, jump height, and mantling distance. You have a couple of less obscure ones, such as needing to change the camera's far and near clip planes, so geometry is less likely to clip through your camera as you get smaller. Another interesting one we'll talk about later.